the book of Hebrews. I'm going to reread that, and then we're going to cross-reference that with the passage that it references, or one of the passages that it references. In the book of Hebrews, and in the 5th chapter, verse 7, it says, "In the days of his flesh, he offered up both prayers and supplications, with loud crying and tears to the one able to save him from death. And he was heard because of his piety. Although he was a son, he learned obedience from the things which he suffered. And having been made perfect, he became to all those who would obey him the source of eternal salvation." All right, so we're in a series on prayer, right? The first prayer, I believe, was the sinner's prayer, right? 40 days of prayers. For those who are visiting us, we're on this journey of 40 days of prayer where, as a congregation, we're praying together. And so each sermon is talking about prayer. So the first sermon was the sinner's prayer. And we dealt with the publican and the Pharisee, right? And the publican, he went before God humble and beating on his chest and said, "God, forgive me." And the Pharisee, on the other hand, was, "Thank God I'm not like this other person." And then the next week was the student's prayer, am I right? And then the student's prayer, we learned how to pray. The acts of prayers: adoration, confession, thanksgiving, and supplication. I know y'all say, "You wasn't even here for that." I watch YouTube. And so those sermons are actually, you know what I'm saying, those are great sermons. They're a lot easier to deal with than this passage that we're going to deal with. Because in today's society, what I've learned is that we don't really like to suffer through anything. We don't like to we don't like to cook in the oven anymore. We want to pop it into the microwave. We don't want to take the time in order for the meal to get really, really thoroughly cooked and take the hours that it may take to prep the meal. We don't want that. We want it in a bag, and we want to pop it in a microwave. And so when you talk to people about suffering, no matter what context you put it in, we don't really want to deal with this. We don't want to deal with the fact that in order for us to get to our success, we have to suffer. So we're going to look at Jesus in this passage. So the Hebrew writer, he's referencing, he says, in the days of his flesh, he offered up both prayers and supplications. Let me talk about those words before we go to the Matthew 26 correlation. That word prayer, I used to always think that prayer and supplication, like, it's a double up. I mean, he's saying the same thing. It's a prayer and a prayer. Well, in this passage, the prayer is the thing that is a heartfelt need or desire that he's begging God, right? So Jesus came begging God for something, and then the supplication was like an olive branch to God. It wasn't him asking God for anything. It was, "God, I'm going to give you this olive branch because we are at war. If I need to give you an olive branch, I mean, there's a difference between us. So I'm coming up to God with a prayer, with a heartfelt prayer. Lord, I need you in this moment. Lord, I need you. But I'm also giving you this olive branch because I know that the thing that I'm even asking you, you can kill me, but I'm coming into you in peace, God." So in prayer and supplication, so he came to God begging, but humbly. We've believed the hype that God is our genie in a bottle. That as soon as we ask something, Faith, God's supposed to jump. "Hey, that's my child. I'm going to give it to him." As soon as my wife start acting up, or as soon as my children start acting up, as soon as I pray that prayer, nothing has to go on in between time. And in the meantime, God is just going to zap in. She's going to be the bombest wife ever. And zap, my children are going to get straight A's without studying ever. Yeah. As we journey to now Matthew 26, because I'm going to unpack this here, and I don't want to be more than 30 minutes, but Clint went 20, so I'm going to try to go 20 on my introduction. So in Matthew 26, starting at verse 36, we read what the Hebrew writer was talking about. Y'all know what? I'm sorry. I can't be cute today. This is not a cute passage. I got to get comfortable because It's about to go down. Starting at verse 36. Then Jesus came to them, with them, to a place called Gethsemane, and said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." And he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, that would be James and John, and began to be grieved and distressed. Then he said to them, "My soul is deeply grieved to the point of death. Remain here and keep watch with me." And he went a little beyond them and fell on his face and prayed, saying, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." And he came to his disciples and found them sleeping and said to Peter, "So you mean you could not keep watch for me for 1 hour?" That prayer took 2 seconds, but 1 hour. Okay, keep watching and praying that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. He went again away a second time and prayed, saying, "My Father, if this cannot pass away unless I drink it, your will be done." Again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. And he left them again, and he went away and prayed a third time, saying the same thing once more. Then he came to his disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Behold, the hour is at hand that the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners." The Garden of Gethsemane. The Garden of Gethsemane finds itself on the mountain, or the Mount of Olives. The Mount of Olives was a mountain that Jesus would frequent. And on this mountain, you can overlook the city of Jerusalem. And on this mountain, you can see the temple. So I would like to believe that Jesus would go there often so he could overlook the people of God, and he could pray over them, and he could pray over the temple. And I believe that sometimes that even when he entered Jerusalem this last time, that he cried over Jerusalem, the Mount of Olives. So, the Mount of Olives, mountains are very important in the Bible. Moses went up on the Bible, on a mountain, and Jesus and his Mount Transfiguration. Mountains are important. So I believe that the disciples, as they were thinking they were going up this mountain, they thought they were going to have another aha moment, another moment where we're going to have some victorious things going on. Even though Jesus just told us he was going to die, they still didn't believe him. And so in order to get to the mountain, he had to go through the Garden of Gethsemane. Now, in the Bible, I'll just stick with me on these little things that I picked up. In the Bible, there are 4 gardens that stand out, right? The first garden is the Garden of Eden. The second garden is the Garden of Gethsemane. Then the other one follows that is the Garden of Golgotha. You remember after Jesus was taken off of the cross, he was put into the rich man's tomb, which was a garden outside of the mountain of where he was. And then the fourth one is the Garden of God, which we find in Revelations 22. Now, what's important about the first one is the first garden was the garden that we found sin. That's where, although God made it perfect and man and God had this relationship, it was a garden where there was sin was found. And then the second garden where Jesus was the place where Jesus would be squished. If you can know anything about olives, in order to get the most out of them, in order to get the oil out of them, in order to get the things, the perfume and the cosmetics out of them, the olives had to be squished. In order to that to happen, they had to go through the olive garden, which was the Garden of Gethsemane. It means olive press in the Hebrew. Jesus now is in the pressing place as the olive, being squished and being squeezed so that he can present something to someone else. When a king was anointed with oil, that oil was olive oil. You guys are royalty. The reason why you are royalty is because Jesus was squished and he made you royalty. A lot of us came into the body of Christ broken and wounded. Another use of olive oil was for healing. In order for you to be healed, Jesus had to be squished. in the place where the oil was squeezed in the Garden of Gethsemane. You know, that's why I love studying the Bible. These things come together. So Jesus is in the squishing and squeezing place. He's in a place where he's about to be squished to life. Or maybe I say squished to death. So he's in the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus knew he was going to die. That's what he came to do. He knew he was going to the cross. That's what he came to do. Why in this moment, after he told his boys, he told Judas, go ahead and do what you're going to do because, you know, Satan is on you. Go ahead, go sell me out. Boom. He knew what was going on. He knew. So why in this moment did he have so much distress and so much angst? Well, let's read down the passage, starting at verse 36. When he came to the place of Gethsemane and said to his disciples, sit here while I go over there and pray. He took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee and began to be grieved and distressed. First thing I noticed is that not everybody could go with him to this place where he was going. He couldn't have the other 8 come with him to this place. There are some things, you guys, that you're going to go through in life that you can't be calling everybody and telling everybody that your wife is a horrible wife or your husband is a horrible husband or your kids or this or your jobs. You can't take everybody there with you, even if they're your good friends, because these 8 were his good friends. Then he took, the Bible says, James and John and Peter. He took them. That word for took means he grabbed them aggressively and made them come with him. There are some people who may not even be ready to go with you to that next level, but you might have to carry them along just to get closer to the place where you need to be. And he said, you stay right here. And he went a little further. Y'all notice that? He went by himself. In our suffering moments where God is trying to level us up as individuals, some places, beloved, you got to go by yourself. People not going to understand why you're going to stay in that horrible marriage because they so busy watching Oprah and Dr. Phil and everybody else, and they look happy in their marriage, and they look happy in their marriage, and they're going on a cruise, and they're going to this place, and they're going to, and I'm miserable. God don't want me in this. They better look at this passage. Sometimes you can't listen to people. It's between you and God. And I might even wrestle with God with this. Because that's what Jesus did in this moment. He was wrestling with God. He didn't want to go to the cross. He said, I don't want to go. Father, is there another way for this to happen? I don't want to stick through this thing. I don't want to go through this. And the passage, it looks like it was just a couple of seconds, but it took him an hour to pray through this. And as he was praying, when you start to really study and unpack these words, he was praying on his face. He was praying, sweating to the point of blood, that his sweat was so thick that it had to be blood in there with his sweat. He was afraid. Yeah, your God, your Savior, your Jesus was afraid. He was afraid. He was 100% human, you guys. We like to think, I can't be like Jesus. He ain't talking to me. Jesus was 100% flesh. And what he went through in the flesh, he was trying to show us that we too can go through the same things. The catch to that is we couldn't go through this, what he's going through. We can be privy to it. We can look at it and we can read it and like, ooh, Jesus really didn't want to go to that cross. I understand. I wouldn't want to die for me either, Jesus. But Jesus, being God, being Alpha and Omega, he didn't just say, I didn't want to. He said, from Adam to the coming back, I'm taking on all the sins everybody. Y'all know a perfect God who is sinless, having to take on the sins of every single body, not just the children of Israel, how much pressure that is. And he's not just God to where he's just going to feel it. He's able to see these things. It caused him great angst to have to deal with the fact that he was going to go to the cross to die for people who may not ever accept him, ever love him back. And what he's going to do is it's not a problem that you may not accept me or love me back. Is I'm doing this for you, and I have to separate myself from my Father. My Father and I have always been together. Since before the beginning of time, we created time. We have never not been together. Not once have we ever been separated. And in order for me to do this, in order for me to allow God's wrath to be poured on me, then the Spirit of God has to disappear. God can't die. Jesus wouldn't have died unless the Spirit of God departed from him. That's why he struggled so much. That's why in this prayer time, when it was just him, he was wrestling within himself. He was like, I don't want to do it, but I got to do it. But I don't want to do it, but I got to do it. But Father, if there's another way that you can, well, if Jesus knew that he was God Almighty, if God had another way, then he would already gave it to him. He said, if there's another way, Father, if there's another way, let this cup, let this wrath, let your judgment pass me by. I didn't even do nothing, y'all. Taking on all y'all sins. But he said, you know what? It's not about me. It's not about my will. It's not about what I desire. What is your will, God? What is it that you want? What is it that's going to bring you glory? So that's one prayer. He came back 2 more times. He didn't do this just for the sake of doing it. This was serious business. Jesus did not want to be separated from God, but it wasn't about him. I don't know who this is for. In your prayer life, you're so busy. God, take this cup away from me. Take this situation away from me. Take it away, God. Fix it. Change him. Change her. Change it. Change that. Change my job. Change my circumstance. Change it. Change it. Change it. You're so busy coming to God. Change. And God ain't changed his mind yet. And you keep going around in this circle, and this circle of instability, and this circle of self-hating, this circle of y'all just going around in these circles, praying and asking God to fix everything else and missing out that this is the will of God for your life, so that you can get to where he wants you to be, not where you want to be. God could have did something else because he's God. But there is no remission of sin without a sacrifice of blood. And there was only one perfect lamb. And Jesus knew that. And Jesus wanted to please Daddy. And he went to his homeboys and like, man, can y'all stay awake and pray with me? Not pray for me. Look at the passage. He didn't ask them to pray for him. What he asked them to do is to stay awake and pray that they won't be tempted. See, in this garden, scholars say, is where Satan had his last stand with Jesus. That he was going to tempt with Jesus with everything. Anything that would tempt his flesh, he was going to tempt him with it. And that temptation was so strong that it might have got on you. So you need to pray. Y'all be careful, y'all. People be like, come pray for me. Pray for me. Pray for me about that stuff. And you know, I'm really knowing what they're going through, and you praying, and you get it close enough to them, and next thing you know, their temptation become your temptation. I'm just saying, be careful. Not everybody can go to this level. The 8 stayed over there, and then the 3, they couldn't even stay awake. So Jesus goes back, and he prays, and he begs God. He begs. He's begging God. He's begging him. He's on his face. This idea of kneeling in prayer for the Christian comes from this passage in Luke. I believe it's Luke 22 when Jesus kneeled down, he said, in Luke's passage. But in this passage, he said he fell down to his face and laid prostrate. That's where we get that from. We got to beg God sometimes in our prayer lives. Beg him for his will. And see, the reality is that Jesus hurt and he was in pain and that he gave God a real, God, I don't want to do this, but it's not about me. How many of us, and I'm raising my hand because I'm already guilty, I'll be praying and it'd be so much about me. I'll be like, man, my wife, man, ooh, she's so fine, but Lord Jesus. Jesus, if you just, see, she walked out the room so I can say this. Jesus, if you just, she in the kitchen? Hey, babe. Jesus, if you just get her to submit to me, Jesus, get her to submit. She'll tell you I'm telling the truth. I'd be like, I can't say that. That might be racial. And she'll be like, I hope you get one. That's my wife. Well, I'm telling the truth. Y'all laughing, but I'm telling the truth. That's, I'm praying, God, I'm about this kingdom work. I need her to submit to me. So, God, you made me the man. Since I'm the man, I didn't ask to be the man. You made me the man. You made me a man. When I came out of my mama's womb, you made me a boy. I'm a boy, Damon. I'm a boy. So God, since you made me a boy, you need to fix her because it hasn't worked. What I keep getting in my spirit every time I talk to another husband about their marriage, the same thing I'm telling them is the same thing I need to do. Love my wife like Christ loved the church. I be preaching to them, boy. I be like, you just got to love her, man. Just keep loving her in her crazy. Love her in this. Love her like Jesus loved the church. The church is crazy. So love your wife like Jesus. Not me, brother. I'm like, all right, God, that's for them. Can I just be honest? That's how we get. We want God to flip and do stuff that's not what in God's will. If he wants me to be a great man of God, then I have to be a great husband. In order for me to be a great husband, I have to go through some suffering. You got to go through something in order to be something. See, in the passage that we started off with, he said, and Jesus suffering, he did what? He learned obedience. He had to learn obedience. He didn't have to be obedient before because he was God. He didn't have to learn obedience until it was something going against him. And when he learned that obedience, he said in his suffering he learned obedience. And then he became the author of salvation to all those who would obey him. Y'all see that? So in his suffering, he learned obedience. His success went through suffering and him being obedient in those bad times. Then what happened? He became the author. He became the beginner. He became the firstborn of salvation. After he was perfected, you guys, after he went through it, you guys, after he was purified in that gold moment, you guys, that's when he became the author of salvation to everybody else who would then have to believe, obey, and believe in him. I know you think your marriage is about you, Faith. I know that, you suffering in this marriage, you think that, if you don't feel good, Faith, if it don't fit into your worldview of what marriage should be, Faith, then, you're like, well, on to the next one because society says that we can just throw them away and we can go get another one. Or I'm going to live a chase now. Now I'm going to be single, Faith. But you're not realizing that God is allowing you to go through your suffering in your marriage so that you can save some other marriages. See, Jesus went through what he went through so he could save us all. So when you're going through your suffering, if you see how Jesus saw that it wasn't about you, and it wasn't about me, but it was about him the Father, and it's about his success, then you'll go through that hell in order that others might get heaven. Jesus didn't have to go through any of this stuff. He chose to, and he prayed, and he begged God, God, there has to be another way because I don't want your spirit to depart from me. But nevertheless, it's not about me. Yeah, you're going to pray and say, he crazy as a road lizard. But he ain't too crazy for Jesus to save. You're going to pray, and you're going to feel like giving up. But Jesus didn't give up on you, beloved. You have not sacrificed to the point of blood yet, have you? This temporary, this momentary affliction, it's just a moment. Oh, man. Look, it's been 7 years, right? 7 years in October. We've been together 7 years. 7 years, right? She looking at me, got her arms folded. So I'm going to be in trouble. I'm already in trouble. Might as well go on and go knee deep up in there. 7 years. Watch myself. My mama said, watch myself. So when mama spoke, honor thy mother and thy father in the Lord, I'm going to move on. 7 years. And we walk up in here looking all good, and y'all smiling like, ooh, goals. I want what y'all got. Ooh, wee, look at just a perfect couple. She fine, and he's, yeah, God is real because he pulled her. Look at that. There is a God. But y'all don't know the hell I put her through. Y'all don't know the hell I put her through. We often want the resurrection. I talked about this on Easter. We want the victory of the resurrection. But y'all don't want to go through the suffering she went through in order to get y'all relationship where this relationship appears to be. Y'all don't want to go through that suffering because there has been many times when she should have been like, whoop, I'm out of this camp. Many times. Probably yesterday was another time. But guess what? She's still here. In her suffering, she's been obedient. And how many other marriages will be blessed because she decided to stick with me? Whatever you're going through right now in your walk, in your journey with God, as you're praying through and it seems like heaven and hell are not even paying attention to what's going on, I want you to know that God is faithful and that he is listening. It says in that passage that Jesus was heard because of his piety, because of his reverence. You're being heard because of Jesus. Not because you're so good, because Jesus is standing or sitting by the right hand of the Father. He's standing right there, and he's interceding for you on your behalf. Not because you are so great or you're so good, it's because he's so good. So Jesus is whispering, and he's not telling Daddy to take you out of the fire. He's saying, be patient with him. Be patient with him. Be patient with him. Turn the fire up a little bit, Daddy. Be patient with him. Send him an angel, because in the Luke text, God had to send an angel to minister to Jesus. So every now and again, you're going to be in those moments when you want to give up. But don't give up. You can tell him, man, God, I want to give up. And he's going to say, I know you did. My son did too. But because he didn't, now you have access to me. So don't give up, because what I have for other people through you is greater than what you're going through. So as we're praying in our suffering, it may not change in the twinkling of an eye. But if you're obedient in the process, when it's said and done, God will be glorified and others will be saved. Y'all missing that. Y'all don't. We so selfish, Faith. My wife about to get at me now because I'm about to fuss. We so selfish, Faith. At the very first sign of trouble, man, if it's at work, if it's a class in school, if it's a relationship, a marriage relationship, oh, I can't do this. I can't suffer through anything. Because, suffering don't make me look good. Sweating to the point of blood don't make me look good. What I want the priestly garments, and I want the royal crown, but, in order to get those things, God just give them to me. Just Jesus needs to do all the work, but Jesus was the first one, and he did it to show us what we ought to do. So whatever you're going through, whatever your suffering is right now, whatever you're struggling with right now, keep going, stay prayed up, fall on your knees, fall on your face, don't take too many people with you, and finish the course. Because there's some other things for you to jump over. A lot of our ministries in life are being held back, not because God don't want to bless us and throw them at us. We still on the first lap, and it's a marathon. We keep repeating the first lap. No, they said, go off this gate. No, that's just a trap over there. I don't want to go through no traps. I don't want to go through no struggles. So I'm going to keep running around this lap. And I'm comfortable with this lap. I know how to run this lap. But in order to grow in God, there's not one person in this Bible who didn't go through some uncomfortable things in order to get the glory that God has for them. And I'm not speaking to anybody else, I'm speaking to myself. I operate in a place of comfort. It's easy. I know how to do comfort. I don't know how to do struggle. My whole life has been a struggle. Struggle is comfortable to me. But real struggle, to go to the next level, I don't know how to do that, Amber. So y'all pray with me. Because we're supposed to be leveling up this year, beloved. And so, oftentimes we get up here as preachers and we tell y'all, level up. We need to level up. Disciple people. Do this, do that, do this. Everybody do that. And we miss out on our moments to level up. And I've been missing out on my moments to level up. Yeah, I'm discipling people. Yeah, I'm doing this. Yeah, I'm doing that. But I'm not leveling up. I'm walking in my comfort. I don't want to suffer. So when she gets on my nerves, I ask God to fix her. Because loving her is suffering for me. Loving her the way that she needs to be loved is suffering for me because, you know what? It's not about me. It's totally about her. Heck no. I'm the oldest son. I'm spoiled in the mug. My granny spoiled me. My mama spoiled me. My uncle spoiled me. The hood spoiled me. Everybody spoiled me. She ain't going to spoil me, though, Faith. I can't leave her. I can't live at the bar every night. I can't call other women. Can I go down Figueroa? Maybe pornography, Fate. It's not about me. It's about her, them two girls, their husbands, and anybody who comes into my circle. It's about them. So I keep striving. Even though I don't know how. I've never seen it. Yes, I have. I'm lying. Because in the Bible, Jesus shows me how to love this woman. I got to die to myself. That don't feel good. church, and I want to present her without spot or blemish. But in order for that to happen, I got to do my part. I don't know what your part is in your situation that you're going through, but you can stand to your feet because I'm done. I don't know what your part is. I don't know what you're suffering through, but I know that God is not allowing you to suffer for the sake of suffering. God is not sitting up there getting joy out of you suffering, just, they suffering. He's trying to refine you and take you to another level. And even though you may not feel like going there, I'm telling you, just keep praying. Our prayer ministry is push, pray until something happens. Heaven is at your beck and call. The angels are waiting to answer the prayer. Keep asking. Walk in obedience and watch God. Watch God. Watch God. Watch God, because this moment, though it was Thursday night, Friday morning, Sunday morning, Jesus got up with the keys to death in his hands. And that very thing that he wanted to do, he wanted to die, he now had the keys to be obedient, keep going. Your Sunday morning is coming. It's coming. But you got to do your part. Don't run out of the garden. Don't run. Keep going. Keep going. God wants to bless you. I'm not saying something to tickle your ears. He wants to bless his children. But he's not going to do it to you if you're acting like you're Satan's child. Walk in obedience and watch God bless you. There may be somebody here who don't know God. And you want this relationship with him, and you want him to be able to help you through your stuff and help you in your moments of suffering and be able to cry out to him. And if you want that relationship with God and you don't have it, the way you get it is by being baptized into the body of Christ. And the way that happens is you go down in the watery grave of baptism, and when you come up new, because the Bible tells me that you are new. And then you live this life, and you let some others help you level up in discipleship. You keep walking with God. And then there's some people here who just want to give up on your walk with God, because that walk is inclusive of suffering. You want to go to another church where they're not going to preach on this, that they're going to preach on prosperity, prosperity, prosperity. I get, I receive, I get, I receive. We're trying to free people here. And if you want to be free today from yourself, so as you go through your suffering, you can suffer the right way so that you can be successful at the end of it. Because I don't know about y'all, I'm tired of being on that lap. And the rat race, what's that thing called? The hamster's wheel? I'm tired of it. I ain't losing no weight on that wheel. I'm gaining more weight on that wheel. More stuff. Picking up new habits. New hurts that I'm bringing upon myself because I won't obey God. If anybody here is having a problem with obeying God, just in your life, we're going to pray for you. We'll pray for you right now. You can fill out a card, get prayer right now. We'll pray for you. Jesus was squished in the Olive Garden that you might have healing, that you might have hope, that you might be whole. Come get some healing if you need it. Hold on to that hope in him and come and be made whole by submitting your life to his, and he'll do it.
Jesus, I come to you. In my heart I bow my knees. Jesus, please take my heart. In it make your home. In me I believe. Jesus, you are God, You died for me. You died for me. I believe. Lord, you rose again from my sin. You set me free to live again. I turn away from my sin, Lord, and turn to you, to you. I know that you're saving me, Lord. I turn away from my sin, Lord, and turn to you, to you. I thank you for saving me, Lord. Lord, have your way in me. By your Spirit, draw me near. I have the faith to see. Only you can save me. I believe, Jesus, you are God, and you died for me. I believe, Lord, you rose again from my sin. You set me free to live again. I turn away from my sin, Lord, and turn to you, to you, Lord. I know that you're saving me, Lord. I turn away from my sin, Lord, and turn to you, to you. I thank you for saving me. I turn away from my sin, Lord, and turn to you. I know that you're saving me. I turn away from my sin, Lord, and turn to you. I thank you for saving me. I turn away from my sin, Thank you for another chance, for letting me run to you. I know that you're saving me. I turn away from my sin, Lord, and turn to you. I thank you for saving me, Lord. I thank you, Lord. You're saving me, Lord. I thank you, Lord. I thank you for saving me, Lord. I thank you, Lord. I thank you for saving me, Lord. I thank you. I thank you for saving me, Lord.
Come on, y'all, bless the name of the Lord. Come on, bless the name of the Lord.